Hello again. It's so lovely to see you. So, did you want to continue our discussion from last week, or did you want to move on to another topic?
I'd like to continue on from last week, if that's okay.
Yes, of course we can. So, tell me about him. What was he like?
Well, he was very outgoing, kind and sweet. He was the type of guy mum would absolutely love to see on a date. Just the ideal man, and that's what I thought he was until we moved in together. As time went by, he never really told any good stories. It was like it got to a point where he ran out of them and had no interest in making any new ones with me. He also never really made my heart race anymore. There were no romance or surprises in the relationship like there should have been. Just a whole lot of boring. He used to be so intriguing and mysterious when he told all these incredible stories of living in London, but it just ended up being so mentally and physically exhausting to try and act interested in everything he was saying because of how repetitive he got. When I started to begin feeling the distance, I tried to hold his hand to see if it felt the same as it used to, but I couldn't feel anything. It was meant to feel like a bird leaving its cage for the first time, like I could spread my wings and fly alongside him without having to worry in the world, but it felt like I was gasping for air, like I was trapped in the cage and everything was just shrinking and suffocating me. At night we spent a lot of time laying in our room together, watching the same old boring shows. I'd find myself thinking, what if he thinks I'm the one? I'll be forced to rot away with him in his silly little obsessions. We would end up arguing about stupid things, like the amount of love hearts I finished my text messages with, and he'd be feeding the cats in the morning. I'd find myself disconnecting from reality and just repeatedly asking myself, while he was rambling on about his mediocre day, doing absolutely nothing, would he bore me to death? So I tried to make the relationship interesting and planned trips out to the park and the beach like we used to. But he just wasn't into it anymore. He stopped caring about me and my things despite showing the fascination at all of his. He started showing up late to date nights and choosing to spend time with his friends rather than spending any quality time with me. So to see if I could get him to enjoy our relationship again, I planned our weekend trip away for us both to London to try and get away from some of the stresses of my job and life in general. But it didn't work. He spent the majority of the trip messaging his friends and not paying much interest to me or relaxing together. So, after a lot of thinking, I had to end things with him.
Well, I can see how much you really cared for him, and that you really tried to work things out with him.
Yeah, I really do care for him. I guess that's why I let him stay in the house, being the one who has a job and pays for the rent for the house. I thought I'd be the one staying here after the breakup. However, he was just hanging around there. He pestered me with messages whilst I was at work asking how my day was and that he misses me. It made me think, what if he doesn't leave me? What if he didn't understand my messages of get out, you absolute boring fuck? What if I get stuck in the house with him and his boring little life? So I end up having to leave the house myself, and that's where I'm at now, just really, really lonely.
Hey again. So, how's your week been?
Difficult. I can't stop thinking of him and what we had at the beginning. I get it, we all have to move on at some point, clearly some faster than others. I guess the message I've been trying to tell him has finally sunk in. I just don't want to believe that it's over. I was in the bath last night and I could not stop crying, no matter what I did to try and stop it. It didn't work. I've tried distracting myself with the things I love, like reading, writing, planning my trip around the world, but my thoughts come back to the beginning of the relationship, when we spent all our time together. He was so sweet. I remember our first date in November. It was at our local coffee shop. I remember telling him about my passion for travelling, and I remember thinking how I sound like a complete idiot rambling on about how many wanted to visit as many countries as I could. I apologised to him for sounding like an absolute geography nerd. He laughed. He told me how adorable I was for being so passionate about the subject. He promised me that we could go travelling to the places I wanted to go. Together, the two of us. But it's all over now. The memories of the days spent together in summer, we would just hang around laughing, crying, picnic, sunset, beaches, all gone in the blink of an eye. I look back and I just know I've never been so happy than when I was with him. And that is the thing. I can't say I wasted my time because who I am as a person has been built by him. His interests became mine too. The music we listened to, the films and the TV shows we watched, the places we went, they became my favourite things. and it physically hurts me inside to even reminisce. I can't say I'm glad it's over, because that wouldn't be true. I miss him.
Okay, it sounds like you have had a really challenging week. Talking about how you're feeling will really help with the grieving process. I suggest meeting with your friends. I'm sure if you explain to them your situation, they will listen and give you advice. And about your trip, I think you should hold off on it until you've grieved the relationship. Have you considered... Good afternoon. What happened?
Well, I did exactly as you told me to. I went out with my friends, we got let in by the bouncer. We all had been going to that pub since we were 18, so he knew us quite well. We went over to our seats, and at about 6:30, I ordered my first drink of the night. My usual rum and coke. My friends began the conversation, celebrating pregnancy, engagement, a new apartment, and a new job. I ordered shots. I thought to myself how sad it would seem to be an outsider looking into our conversation, everyone just celebrating, and then me. The one person who would turn the conversation into a pity party if they even mentioned how they were really feeling, so I decided to keep quiet. After my 5th shot, my mind was racing with anger. How dare my friends celebrate their happiness and success in front of me, the girl whose best friend is the nearest bottle of wine? Of course, I'm happy with my friends, but this isn't where I thought I'd end up when I was younger. I thought I'd be travelling around the world, loving life, but here I was, stuck in this pub with my friends of a past where I didn't belong anymore. We said our goodbyes and I was offered a lift home, but I took it upon myself to walk. That's where my memories become a bit of a blur that night. I used a lamppost to guide me as the moon seemed too far away to care if I got home safe that night. I remember the burning feeling of anger with every step I took. My brain was a fire burning bright. I felt as though I could argue or fight anyone that got in the way of my walk home that night. The closer I got, the angrier I was. Every step was, why do I miss him? Why can't I move on? Why am I angry at him? He never cared. He was the worst. I was so angry at myself for allowing him to be in my life and allowing myself to become like him. I felt like he lost a piece of me, but I lost myself trying to become like him. I woke up in bed this morning. God knows how I got home. But I decided I need to let this pass. I need to start moving on and accepting what has happened. There's nothing I can do to change it.
Hello. How nice it is to see you. You look really healthy. When I got your email saying you wanted to drop by for a chat, I was so happy. So how are things with your geography course at uni?
Oh, thank you so much. I feel so great. I feel so much better in myself. Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. I've made so many new friends. I'm way more independent than I used to be. I've learned things like how datelines and sextants work. And oh, it's amazing. It makes me so excited for the future and to travel around the world. But I actually came in to talk to you about what happened yesterday.
What happened?
Well, when I told my friends at home that I was coming back for Christmas, I got bombarded with messages from him asking to meet me for a coffee. And well, I was curious to see him and to see if he had changed, so I decided to see him.
Okay, and how did it go?
Well, I saw him from across the room and he looked the same, impressive on the outside. He was charming, sweet, and then he started talking and began to realise that he was exactly who he wanted to be. Still no job. Still no care for anything. Still just the same old boring guy who just watches TV, sleeps all day, lays in bed. Then our eyes met for the first time in months. He told me how lovely I looked, and he has a dog now, and a new girlfriend that he throws parties at the house every weekend, and I could tell he definitely was laying it on thick for me, trying to impress me, but then after about 20 minutes the conversation turned to me. He asked how I was, and then for a second, my heart skipped a beat. For a split second, I wanted to make up stories about how I was doing so much better without him, that I had a new boyfriend and that we were travelling around the world and I just bought a new car. I just felt as though my life as it is now wasn't going to impress him, and that my choice to go to uni wasn't enough of an improvement compared to what we had when we were together. But then, it clicked. I looked at him in his pity of his sad little life. He's forgotten. He's completely forgotten that I used to pay the rent, make our food, go to work, feed the cats, and on top of that, remind him of what he needs to do, like calling his parents and making a doctor's appointment once in a while. I finally realised he was only trying to say stuff to impress me, and I don't care what he thinks. I'm in his head. I'm constantly on his mind. I infest his brain at times he doesn't expect. It's like I'm digging at his cortex and just completely emotionally draining him. He will never, ever be able to get rid of the complete and utter guilt he feels when he realised he has lost me. I came back to reality and said, I'm okay. And then I asked him, how did you feel when you realised that you will never feel a love like mine again? Sickness, pain, jealousy, anger? Or have you really grieved what we had? Are you proud of who you have been? Have you accepted what happened and that we won't ever be a thing again? I used to be so anxious and nervous waiting by the phone for your calls. We would chat for hours on end. Now those hours have been replaced by apathy, dating apps, crime documentaries, studying in sextants. I know you would tell me anything to make yourself feel less numb about the situation, but I finally realised why I was so upset and angry when things ended. It was because I never missed you. I just missed what we had. You had me crazy in love with you, when I was just in love with the idea of being in love and being in a happy, healthy relationship. So my last words to you before I leave you are, thank you. Thank you for teaching me that being myself and loving and accepting the person that I am is what makes me happy. Thank you for giving me my independence as a person. Lastly, thank you for being my everything, even if at the end I realised we were never meant to be together. And then I left.